This has wrecked my great plan. I was going to review Street Fighter in chronological order, but since my Super Nintendo is packed away under 3 feet of boxes, the only console I have out is my Saturn because I knew it was going to get played often, which means I'm going to do the best with what I've got. The first cab off the rank originally was not the Street Fighter collection, and here's why. There is a series called Capcom Generations, which is comprised of all the original Capcom classics, such as 1942, Ghosts and Goblins, and Commando. The very last disc in that collection, Disc 5, which is an exclusive to the Saturn, is comprised of the original Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, and another version of Street Fighter with the additional words tacked onto the end. Technically, this should be the very first Street Fighter disc that I review. I own the disc and it will be reviewed in time, but my plan is to review each of the Capcom Generations games in order. And I'm missing disc 2, which is all of the Ghouls and Ghosts games, so that'll have to come later. Next chronologically is the Street Fighter collection, which contains Super Street Fighter 2, The New Challengers, and Super Street Fighter 2 X Grandmaster Challenge. By this stage, I'm guessing Capcom are the rock stars of the gaming industry who do lines of coke off strippers' asses. Things were getting aggressively out of hand at Capcom when there was an edition that never saw a public release called Street Fighter 2 The Bullshit Edition. Everything is cool and reasonable as it demonstrates the two versions of Street Fighter on this disc as clear examples of small progression between the original Street Fighter 2 and the two versions mentioned so far. But there's a second disc which only has one game on it, and it couldn't be more out of place like a black person in the KKK rally, which is Street Fighter 02. It does fill the holes of what is missing, sure, but Street Fighter 0, you know, the first one? Why wouldn't you put that on this disc instead? You can buy all the Street Fighter 0 games on their own, so if you own this so-called collection, then why would you bother buying Street Fighter 02 on its own? Well, it turns out Street Fighter 02 by itself was released the previous year, which would mean this collection holds less weight. It does have a Gookie mode, which I don't remember being on the original disc. What I will say is that I fucking love Street Fighter, even though this collection has me completely fucking bewildered as to why they chose the versions they did. I mean, if you're really gung-ho about this, wouldn't you make some truly ultimate collection that gives us everything from the start? Instead of us having to waste precious time working out what the fuck I'm missing? I've never played Super Street Fighter 2X Grandmaster Challenge. In fact, I didn't even know this was one of the many versions of the game. Loading time is acceptable, sound is as great as it ever was. There is a smidge slowdown, but nothing that bad. The graphics look excellent, and the gameplay is also really, really good. The modes are the same as the Super Nintendo and Genesis versions. Some would argue which is the best version of Street Fighter back in the days of Super NES versus Genesis. I always felt personally the Super Nintendo version was a far more superior port in every way, even as a huge Sega fan. But even though after these consoles became end of life and both companies had made new consoles in their place, it seems like Sega were the only ones who still gave a shit. You know what, I'm going to stick with consistency, I'm calling it Sega, fuck them. But after these consoles became end of life and both companies had made new consoles in their place, it seems like Sega were the only ones who still gave a shit about these games to go about releasing more definitive versions. The Street Fighter collection is sorely missing tons of Street Fighters to really call itself a collection. It's as much a collection as it is another cash cow for Sega, which has already happened once before when reviewing Space Invaders and Columns, also for the Saturn. And in the past I've complained bitterly about some of the prices of these games, but this is perhaps one of the biggest discrepancies I've ever seen. If you buy the Japanese import of this game, you'll pay about $10 to $20 at a push. The PAL version goes for about $100+, which is the ultimate fuck you, regardless on how rare the game is. It's still the same games, in a different format, with different artwork. That's it. Would I recommend this game? I feel stupid if I say no, but I know there's nothing wrong with these games. They're probably going to be the best versions you'll find of these games for the Saturn's generation and every generation before it. If you don't own these games anywhere else, save yourself a couple of bucks and fish for the Japanese import, and thank me later. As always, thank you very much for watching. Click on the TV to see the last review, and click on the name underneath the television if you'd like to subscribe.